Have you ever found yourself staring at the ceiling late at night, wondering if there's more to life than the daily grind? In a world of constant hustle and endless distractions, do you yearn for a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment? You're not alone. Millions of people around the globe are asking these same questions, searching for a path to true happiness amidst the chaos of modern life. But what if the answers we seek have been right in front of us all along? What if the teachings of a carpenter from Nazareth, spoken over 2,000 years ago, hold the key to unlocking a life of genuine joy, peace, and purpose? This is not just another self-help book or a list of feel-good platitudes. This is an invitation to embark on a transformative journey, one that will challenge your perspectives, ignite your spirit, and revolutionize the way you approach each day. In the pages that follow, we'll explore 25 timeless lessons drawn from the teachings of Jesus Christ. These aren't just religious doctrines or abstract concepts. They're practical, applicable truths that have the power to reshape your relationships, redefine your priorities, and reignite your passion for life. Whether you're a devout believer, a curious skeptic, or somewhere in between, these teachings offer wisdom that transcends religious boundaries and speaks to the universal human experience. Are you ready to discover a happiness that goes beyond fleeting pleasures and temporary satisfactions? Are you prepared to challenge the status quo and embrace a radically different approach to life? Then join us on this journey. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to living a life of purpose, compassion, and lasting joy. The path to true happiness awaits. Let's take the first step together. Have you ever built a house of cards? You start with a solid base, carefully placing each card to support the next, watching as your creation grows taller and more intricate. But what happens if that foundation isn't stable? One slight tremor, and the entire structure comes tumbling down. In many ways, our pursuit of happiness is like building that house of cards. We stack up achievements, possessions, and experiences, hoping they'll lead to lasting fulfillment. But if we're not building on a solid foundation, even our grandest constructions can collapse under the pressures of life. So, where do we begin? Jesus offers us a revolutionary starting point in Matthew 6:33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. This teaching invites us to flip our priorities upside down. Instead of chasing after material success or worldly approval, we're called to put our relationship with God at the center of everything. But what does this look like in practice? Imagine your life as a garden. Seeking God's kingdom means tending to the soil of your soul before worrying about the fruits you'll produce. It's about cultivating a heart that's open to divine guidance, nurturing a mind that's aligned with eternal truths, and fostering a spirit that's attuned to the whispers of grace. This doesn't mean abandoning your goals or neglecting your responsibilities. Rather, it's about approaching every aspect of life through the lens of your spiritual connection. When you prioritize your relationship with God, you gain a new perspective on success, a deeper well of strength to draw from, and an unshakable sense of purpose that transcends circumstances. Think about the most contented, genuinely joyful people you know. Chances are they're not the ones with the biggest bank accounts or the most impressive resumes. They're often the individuals who have a strong sense of purpose, who live with integrity, and who prioritize their spiritual well-being above worldly gain. So how can you begin to seek God's kingdom first in your own life? Start small. 1. Set aside time each day for prayer or meditation, even if it's just 5 minutes to start. 2. Before making decisions, big or small, pause to consider how they align with your spiritual values. 3. Look for opportunities to serve others, recognizing that acts of kindness are a tangible way to express God's love. 4. Surround yourself with people who encourage your spiritual growth and challenge you to live with purpose. Remember, this isn't about perfection, it's about direction. Each time you choose to prioritize your spiritual life, you're laying another brick in the foundation of true happiness. It might not always be easy, and there will be days when the world's demands feel overwhelming. But as you consistently put God first, you'll find a peace and contentment that no earthly success can match. Reflect for a moment. What areas of your life have you been prioritizing above your spiritual growth? How might your perspective shift if you viewed everything through the lens of seeking God's kingdom first? Challenge yourself to make one small change this week that reflects this new priority. It could be as simple as starting your day with a moment of gratitude or ending it with a prayer of reflection. As we build this foundation together, remember that true happiness isn't found in the destination, but in the journey itself. By seeking God's kingdom first, you're not just working towards joy, you're discovering it with every step you take. Close your eyes for a moment and picture yourself standing at the edge of a cliff. The view is breathtaking, but the drop is dizzying. Now imagine hearing a voice telling you to step off that cliff, promising that you'll be caught. How do you feel? Does your heart race? Do your palms sweat? This scenario captures the essence of what it means to truly trust, to step into the unknown, believing that you'll be supported. In Matthew 6:34, Jesus offers us a profound teaching on trust. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. At first glance, this might seem like an invitation to irresponsibility. Shouldn't we plan for the future? Isn't it wise to be prepared? But let's dig deeper. This teaching isn't about neglecting our responsibilities. It's about freeing ourselves from the paralyzing grip of worry. It's an invitation to live fully in the present moment, trusting that we'll have what we need when we need it. Think about how much mental and emotional energy you spend worrying about things that haven't happened yet and may never happen. How often do these worries rob you of the joy and opportunities right in front of you? Jesus is challenging us to redirect that energy towards living purposefully today. Imagine your life as a long hike. Worry is like carrying a backpack filled with rocks labeled "what if." With each step, that weight slows you down, drains your energy, and keeps you from enjoying the scenery around you. Trusting God is like emptying that backpack, allowing you to move freely and appreciate the journey. But how do we cultivate this kind of trust in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable? Here are some practical steps. 1. Practice mindfulness. Focus on the present moment, acknowledging your thoughts and feelings without judgment. 2. Keep a gratitude journal. Regularly noting the good things in your life can shift your focus from what you fear to what you have. 3. Take small trust falls. Start with minor situations where you choose to let go of control and trust the outcome. 4. Reflect on past experiences. Remember times when things worked out, even when you couldn't. See how they would. 5. Surround yourself with trust-building relationships. Spend time with people who encourage your faith and model trusting attitudes. It's important to note that trusting God doesn't mean sitting back passively. It's an active choice to do your best with what's in front of you while releasing anxiety about what's beyond your control. It's about partnering with the divine, recognizing that you're not alone in facing life's challenges. Consider the story of Peter walking on water. Matthew 2:23. When he kept his eyes on Jesus, he defied the impossible. It was only when he focused on the winds and waves, the what-ifs, that he began to sink. What are the winds and waves in your life that distract you from trusting? Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, every time you catch yourself worrying about tomorrow, pause and ask yourself, what can I do right now in this moment to live fully and faithfully? Then take that action, however small it might be. You might be surprised at how this simple practice begins to transform your outlook. Remember, building trust is like building muscle. It requires consistent exercise. There will be days when it feels easier and days when it's a struggle. But with each choice to trust, you're growing stronger, more resilient, and more capable of experiencing the deep joy that comes from living unburdened by worry. As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to embrace the freedom that comes with trusting God. What would your life look like if you approached each day with the confidence that you are held, supported, and guided by a love greater than your fears? That's the invitation before us, to step off the cliff of worry and into the arms of trust. Have you ever watched a group of birds in a park or your backyard? They flit about seemingly carefree, finding food and shelter without any visible signs of stress or worry. It's this image that Jesus evokes when he teaches about God's care for us in Matthew 6:26. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? This teaching invites us to consider a profound truth. If God cares for the smallest creatures, how much more does he care for us? It's a reminder that we are deeply valued and intimately known by our Creator. But let's be honest, in the midst of life's challenges, it can be hard to feel that care. Bills pile up, relationships strain, health concerns arise, and suddenly we feel very much alone. So how do we bridge the gap between knowing about God's care intellectually and experiencing it in our daily lives? First, we need to understand what this assurance of divine care doesn't mean. It's not a guarantee that life will be free from hardship or that every prayer will be answered exactly as we hope. Rather, it's the promise that we are never alone in our struggles, that there is a greater purpose at work, even in our difficulties, and that we are loved with an unfailing love. Imagine your life as a tapestry being woven. From underneath, where we often find ourselves, it might look like a chaotic mess of tangled threads. But from above, where God sees every thread, even the dark ones, is part of a beautiful, intentional design. So how can we begin to experience this divine care more tangibly in our lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Practice awareness. Start each day by acknowledging God's presence. Look for small signs of care and provision throughout your day. 2. Cultivate gratitude. Regularly express thanks, not just for the big things, but for the small, often overlooked blessings. 3. Share your needs. Be honest with God about your struggles and desires. Vulnerability opens the door to experiencing care more deeply. 4. Serve others. Paradoxically, we often experience God's care most profoundly when we extend care to others. 5. Reflect on past provision. Keep a journal of times when you've experienced unexpected help or guidance. This can bolster your faith during challenging times. 6. Engage with nature. Spend time outdoors, observing the intricate care evident in creation. Let it remind you of your own value. Consider the story of Hagar in the desert, Genesis 21:14-19. Alone, afraid, and out of resources, she discovered that God saw her and provided for her in her moment of greatest need. Her story reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we are seen and cared for. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, start each day by saying out loud, "I am seen, known, and deeply cared for." Then, throughout the day, look for evidence of that care. It might be as simple as a timely encouragement from a friend, an unexpected solution to a problem, or a moment of peace in the midst of chaos. Share what you discover with a friend or in a journal. Remember, experiencing God's care is often a matter of perspective. It's about training our eyes to see the evidence of love and provision that surrounds us, even when circumstances are difficult. As we do this, we begin to live from a place of security rather than scarcity, trust rather than fear. Imagine approaching each day with the unshakable confidence that you are cared for by the Creator of the universe. How might that change the way you face challenges? How might it free you to live more boldly, love more deeply, and give more generously? As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to open our hearts to the reality of God's care. It's not just a nice idea, it's a transformative truth that has the power to revolutionize how we experience each moment of our lives. You are seen, you are known, you are loved. Let that assurance be the foundation from which you live. Picture this. You're walking down a busy street surrounded by a sea of faces. Some are smiling, others frowning, many lost in their own thoughts. Now imagine that you could see beyond those expressions to the stories behind them. The joys, the struggles, the hopes, and the fears that each person carries. How might that change the way you interact with the people around you? This is the perspective Jesus invites us to adopt when he gives us what he calls the second greatest commandment in Matthew 22:39. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's a simple phrase, but its implications are profound and far-reaching. This teaching challenges us to expand our circle of concern beyond our immediate family and friends, to include everyone we encounter. But what does it really mean to love our neighbor as ourselves? It's more than just being nice or doing good deeds. It's about seeing the inherent worth in every person, recognizing their humanity, and treating them with the same care and consideration we'd want for ourselves. Think about how you treat yourself when you're having a bad day. You might give yourself some grace, take a break, or treat yourself to something special. Now imagine extending that same kindness to the grumpy cashier, the slow driver in front of you, or the colleague who seems to always rub you the wrong way. That's the kind of love Jesus is talking about, a love that goes beyond feelings to active intentional care for others. But let's be honest, this isn't easy. Our natural instinct is often to prioritize ourselves, to judge others, or to limit our care to those who are like us or who we think deserve it. So how do we cultivate this radical kind of love? Here are some practical steps. 1. Practice empathy. Before reacting to someone's behavior, pause and consider what might be going on in their life. What struggles might they be facing? 2. Look for common ground. Even with people who seem very different from you, try to find shared experiences or values. 3. Perform random acts of kindness. Make it a goal to do something unexpectedly kind for someone each day without expecting anything in return. 4. Challenge your biases. Pay attention to your knee-jerk judgments about others and question where they come from. 5. Listen actively. When interacting with others, focus on truly understanding their perspective rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. 6. Serve your community. Look for ways to volunteer or contribute to causes that benefit others, especially those different from you. Consider the parable of the Good Samaritan, Luke 10:25-37. Jesus tells this story to illustrate what it means to be a true neighbor. The Samaritan, despite cultural and religious differences, goes out of his way to help a stranger in need. He doesn't just offer a quick fix. He invests his time, resources, and care. This is the kind of love we're called to emulate. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, commit to one specific action each day that demonstrates love for your neighbor. It could be as simple as learning the name of the person who cleans your office, buying coffee for the person behind you in line, or reaching out to a lonely relative. At the end of each day, reflect on how these actions affected both you and the recipient. Remember, loving others as ourselves isn't about grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about a consistent attitude of care and respect that permeates all our interactions. It's about recognizing the divine image in every person we meet, regardless of their appearance, beliefs, or behavior. Imagine a world where everyone lived by this principle. How would our communities change? How would it transform our political discourse, our approach to social issues, our treatment of the environment? The ripple effects of this kind of love are truly world-changing. As we continue on this journey together, let's challenge ourselves to expand our capacity for love. It won't always be easy. There will be days when it feels impossible to love certain people, but with each choice to see beyond surface differences and extend kindness, we're not just changing others, we're changing ourselves. We're becoming more fully human, more aligned with our divine purpose. You have the power to be a force of love in a world that desperately needs it. How will you choose to love your neighbor today? Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with rocks. Each rock represents a grudge, a hurt, or an offense you've held onto. As you walk through life, that backpack weighs you down, sapping your energy and limiting your ability to move freely. Now, imagine what it would feel like to set that backpack down, to release the weight of those accumulated hurts. This is the freedom that forgiveness offers us. In Luke 6:37, Jesus teaches, "Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven." This teaching invites us to break the cycle of judgment and retaliation that often dominates our relationships and our society. It challenges us to embrace a radically different approach to dealing with hurt and offense. But let's be clear. Forgiveness isn't about excusing harmful behavior or pretending that wrongs didn't happen. It's not about forgetting or immediately trusting someone who has hurt you. Instead, forgiveness is a conscious decision to release the right to retaliate, to let go of the bitterness that poisons our own hearts. It's about freeing ourselves from the prison of resentment. Think about a time when someone forgave you for a mistake you made. Remember the relief, the renewed connection, the weight lifted off your shoulders? That's the gift we give others and ourselves when we choose to forgive. So how do we cultivate a forgiving heart, especially when the hurts run deep? Here are some practical steps. 1. Acknowledge the hurt. Before you can forgive, it's important to honestly face the pain you've experienced. Don't minimize it. 2. Choose empathy. Try to understand the perspective of the person who hurt you. What might have led to their actions? 3. Release expectations. Forgiveness doesn't require the other person to apologize or change. It's a gift you give yourself. 4. Start small. If you're struggling with a major hurt, practice forgiveness in smaller situations to build your forgiveness muscle. 5. Seek support. Sometimes, especially for deep wounds, professional help or the support of a trusted friend can be crucial in the forgiveness process. 6. Make it a practice. Incorporate forgiveness into your daily routine, perhaps by ending each day by letting go of small offenses. Consider the parable of the unforgiving servant, Matthew 18:21-35. In this story, a servant who is forgiven an enormous debt refuses to forgive a much smaller debt owed to him. This parable illustrates the absurdity of withholding forgiveness when we ourselves have been forgiven so much. Here's a challenge for you. This week, identify one person you need to forgive. It doesn't have to be for a major offense. Start with something small if that feels more manageable. Write a letter to this person, you don't have to send it, expressing your hurt and your decision to forgive. Then perform a symbolic act of release, perhaps burning the letter or visualizing the hurt floating away on a balloon. Remember, forgiveness is often a process, not a one-time event. You might need to choose forgiveness multiple times for the same offense. That's okay. Each time you make that choice, you're breaking the power that hurt has over you and moving towards freedom. Imagine how your relationships might change if you approach them with a constantly renewed slate, free from the accumulation of past hurts and resentments. How might it change your relationship with yourself if you could forgive your own mistakes and shortcomings? As we continue on this journey together, let's commit to being agents of forgiveness in our world. In a culture that often glorifies revenge and holding grudges, choosing forgiveness is a radical, transformative act. It has the power to heal relationships, restore communities, and bring peace to our own hearts. You have the power to break cycles of hurt and retaliation. You have the ability to offer others and yourself the gift of a fresh start. How will you embrace the freedom of forgiveness today? Have you ever encountered someone who just rubbed you the wrong way? Perhaps it was a difficult coworker, a challenging family member, or even someone whose values or lifestyle choices seemed completely at odds with your own. Now, imagine being called to love that person, not just tolerate them, but actively seek their good. This is the radical challenge Jesus presents to us in Matthew 5:44. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. At first glance, this teaching might seem not just difficult, but downright impossible. Love our enemies, pray for those who hurt us. It goes against every natural instinct we have, and yet this principle lies at the very heart of Jesus' revolutionary ethic. It's a call to break the cycle of hatred and retaliation that so often defines human relationships, and to embrace a love that transcends our likes and dislikes. But what does it mean to love our enemies in practical terms? It doesn't mean we have to like everyone or approve of their actions. It doesn't mean we become doormats or put ourselves in harm's way. Instead, it's about choosing to see the humanity in everyone, even those who oppose or mistreat us. It's about responding to hatred with kindness, to cruelty with compassion. Think about the most divisive issues in our world today: political differences, religious conflicts, social disagreements. Now imagine how these tensions might be transformed if both sides approached each other with genuine love and a desire to understand. This is the world-changing potential of Jesus' teaching. So how do we begin to cultivate this kind of radical love? Here are some practical steps. 1. Start with prayer. Before you interact with someone difficult, spend a moment praying for their well-being. This simple act can shift your perspective. 2. Look for common ground. Even with those who seem most different from you, try to find shared experiences or values. 3. Practice empathy. Try to understand the experiences or fears that might be driving someone's negative behavior. 4. Respond with kindness. When faced with hostility, challenge yourself to respond with an unexpected act of kindness. 5. Set healthy boundaries. Loving your enemies doesn't mean allowing abuse. Learn to set firm, respectful boundaries. 6. Educate yourself. If you're struggling with a particular group, take time to learn about their history, culture, or perspectives. Consider the story of Darrell Davis, an African-American man who has spent years befriending members of the Ku Klux Klan. Through patient dialogue and genuine friendship, he has convinced many to leave the organization. His story is a powerful example of how love can overcome even the deepest divisions. Here's a challenge for you. This week, identify someone you struggle to love. It could be a difficult person in your life, or even a group you tend to judge harshly. Commit to praying for them daily and look for one opportunity to show them kindness, however small. At the end of the week, reflect on how this practice has affected your feelings towards them. Remember, loving our enemies isn't about warm, fuzzy feelings. It's a choice we make, often in the face of our own hurt or anger. It's about recognizing that every person, no matter how flawed or misguided, is created in the image of God and has inherent worth. Imagine a world where this kind of love was the norm rather than the exception. How would it change our families, Our communities, our nations, how might it transform the way we approach conflict and disagreement? As we continue on this journey together, let's challenge ourselves to expand our capacity for love beyond our comfort zones. It won't be easy. There will be times when it feels impossible, but with each choice to respond to hatred with love, we're not just changing others, we're changing ourselves. We're becoming more fully human, more aligned with our divine purpose. You have the power to break cycles of hatred and retaliation. You have the ability to be a force for reconciliation in a divided world. How will you choose to love the unlovable today? Picture yourself in a dark room. Now imagine lighting a single candle. It's amazing how that small flame can transform the entire space, pushing back the darkness and creating a warm, inviting glow. This image captures the essence of Jesus' teaching in Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. This teaching is both an affirmation and a challenge. It affirms that each of us has the capacity to bring light into the world, to make a positive difference in our spheres of influence. But it also challenges us to actively shine that light, to not hide our potential for good under a metaphorical bowl. But what does it mean to be a light in the world? It's not about drawing attention to ourselves or trying to appear perfect. Instead, it's about living in such a way that our actions, attitudes, and choices reflect something greater than ourselves. It's about embodying hope, kindness, integrity, and love in a world that often feels dark and cynical. Think about the people in your life who have been lights for you, those who have inspired you, encouraged you, or shown you kindness when you needed it most. Now imagine the ripple effect if more people lived this way, consciously choosing to be a positive influence in their families, workplaces, and communities. So how can we cultivate this light within ourselves and let it shine more brightly? Here are some practical steps. 1. Start with self-reflection. Identify your unique gifts, passions, and strengths. How can you use these to make a positive impact? 2. Practice intentional kindness. Look for opportunities each day to perform small acts of kindness or encouragement. 3. Speak life. Be mindful of your words, choosing to speak in ways that uplift and inspire rather than tear down. 4. Stand for truth and justice. Don't be afraid to speak up against injustice or to stand for what you believe is right, even when it's difficult. 5. Cultivate joy. A joyful spirit can be contagious. Find reasons to be grateful and let that gratitude shine through your interactions. 6. Be authentic. Don't try to be someone you're not. Your light shines brightest when you're true to who you are. Consider the story of Mother Teresa. She didn't set out to become a world-renowned figure. She simply committed to shining her light by serving the poorest of the poor in Calcutta. Her small acts of love and compassion eventually inspired millions and brought light to some of the darkest corners of human experience. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, start each day by asking yourself, how can I be a light in someone's life today? Then look for specific opportunities to put this into action. It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment, helping a neighbor with a task, or standing up for someone who's being treated unfairly. At the end of each day, reflect on how these actions affected both you and those around you. Remember, being a light doesn't require grand gestures or heroic acts. It's about consistently choosing to bring positivity, kindness, and hope into your daily interactions. It's about refusing to let cynicism or apathy dim your potential for good. Imagine a world where more people embrace this calling to be light. How would our neighborhoods change? our schools, our workplaces, our online interactions. The cumulative effect of many small lights can illuminate even the darkest spaces. As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to let our lights shine brightly. There will be days when it feels like the darkness is overwhelming, when it's tempting to hide our light. But it's precisely in those moments that our light is needed most. You have within you the power to push back darkness, to bring hope where there's despair, to kindle warmth in cold places. Your light matters. How will you let it shine today? Have you ever watched a flock of birds in flight, moving together in perfect synchronization? Or perhaps you've marveled at the intricate structure of a beehive, where thousands of individual bees work in harmony towards a common goal. These natural wonders give us a glimpse into the power of unity, a theme that Jesus emphasizes in his teachings. In Matthew 18:20, Jesus says, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there am I with them." This simple statement carries profound implications. It suggests that there's something uniquely powerful about coming together with a shared purpose, that our collective faith and action can create a space for divine presence and intervention. But this teaching isn't just about religious gatherings. It speaks to a broader truth about human connection and collaboration. When we unite around a common cause or shared values, we can achieve far more than we ever could individually. We find strength, encouragement, and inspiration in community. Think about some of the greatest achievements in human history, from scientific breakthroughs to social movements. Almost invariably, these were not the work of lone geniuses, but of teams, communities, and collectives working together towards a shared vision. So how can we cultivate greater unity in our lives and in our world? Here are some practical steps. Seek common ground. In your interactions with others, look for shared values or goals, even with those who seem different from you. 2. Practice active listening. Make an effort to truly understand others' perspectives rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. 3. Celebrate diversity. Recognize that unity doesn't mean uniformity. Our differences can be a source of strength when we learn to value them. 4. Collaborate regularly. Look for opportunities to work with others on shared projects or goals, both in your personal and professional life. 5. Build bridges. If you notice division in your community, be proactive about creating spaces for dialogue and connection. 6. Pray or meditate together. Whether in a religious context or not, shared spiritual practices can create powerful bonds. Consider the story of the civil rights movement in the United States. It wasn't the work of one person, but of thousands of individuals of different races, backgrounds, and beliefs, uniting around a vision of equality and justice. Their collective action changed the course of history. Here's a challenge for you. This week, identify a cause or project that's important to you. Then find at least 2 other people who share that interest and commit to working together on it. It could be something as simple as organizing a neighborhood cleanup or as complex as starting a community outreach program. The key is to experience the power of collective action. Remember, unity doesn't mean we always agree on everything. It's about finding common purpose despite our differences, about choosing collaboration over competition. It's about recognizing that we are all interconnected, that what affects one of us ultimately affects all of us. Imagine how our world might change if we approached our biggest challenges with a spirit of unity. How might we address issues like climate change, poverty, or social injustice if we truly saw them as shared problems requiring shared solutions? As we continue on this journey together, let's commit to being builders of unity in our spheres of influence. In a world that often seems increasingly fragmented and polarized, choosing unity is a radical, transformative act. It has the power to heal divisions, inspire hope, and create change on a scale we can hardly imagine. You have the power to be a unifying force in your family, your workplace, your community. You have the ability to bring people together around shared values and common goals. How will you cultivate unity today? Picture a world turned upside down, where the values we often chase, wealth, power, status, are replaced by a radically different set of ideals. This is the world Jesus introduces in one of his most famous teachings, known as the Beatitudes. Found in Matthew 5:3-12, these statements begin with "Blessed are," and outline a path to true happiness that challenges many of our conventional notions. Let's look at a few of these teachings. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. At first glance, these statements might seem paradoxical. How can those who are poor in spirit or mourning be considered blessed or happy? But Jesus is inviting us to see beyond surface-level happiness to a deeper, more enduring joy that comes from aligning our lives with divine values. The Beatitudes aren't just nice sayings. They're a blueprint for a life of genuine fulfillment and purpose. They challenge us to redefine success and to find blessedness in unexpected places. Let's explore how we can apply these teachings. In our daily lives, 1. Cultivate humility. Being poor in spirit means recognizing our need for God and others. Practice acknowledging your limitations and being open to learning from others. 2. Embrace vulnerability. Those who mourn are promised comfort. Don't be afraid to authentically express your emotions and seek support in difficult times. 3. Practice gentleness. The meek are those who use their strength with restraint and consideration for others. Look for ways to use your influence for the benefit of others rather than personal gain. 4. Pursue justice. Hungering and thirsting for righteousness means actively working towards what is good and just. Identify causes you're passionate about and take concrete steps to make a difference. 5. Show mercy. Extend forgiveness and compassion. Even when it's difficult, remember times when you've been shown mercy and pay it forward. 6. Seek purity of heart. Strive for integrity in your thoughts and actions. Regularly examine your motives and align them with your values. 7. Be a peacemaker. Look for opportunities to mediate conflicts and build bridges between divided parties. 8. Stand firm in your convictions. Even when facing opposition, remain true to your principles and values. Consider the life of Nelson Mandela. Despite facing years of persecution and imprisonment, he embodied many of these beatitudes, showing humility, pursuing justice, extending mercy to his oppressors, and working tirelessly as a peacemaker. His life demonstrates how living out these principles can have a profound impact not just on an individual, but on an entire nation. Here's a challenge for you. Choose one of the Beatitudes that resonates with you or challenges you the most. For the next week, focus on embodying that principle in your daily life. For example, if you choose "Blessed are the merciful," look for opportunities each day to show compassion or forgiveness. At the end of the week, reflect on how this focus has impacted your relationships and your own sense of well-being. Remember, the Beatitudes aren't about achieving perfection. They're about orienting our lives towards values that bring true, lasting fulfillment. It's a journey, not a destination. Imagine a world where more people embrace these teachings. How might it change our approach to success, our treatment of others, our response to injustice? The Beatitudes offer us a vision of a society characterized by compassion, justice, and peace. As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to live out these countercultural values. In a world that often prioritizes self-interest and material success, Choosing to live by the Beatitudes is a radical act. It's a choice to seek a deeper, more enduring happiness that comes from living in harmony with our divine purpose. You have the power to embody these teachings in your daily life, to be a living example of a different way of being in the world. How will you begin to live out the Beatitudes today? Close your eyes for a moment and think of 3 things you're grateful for right now. How do you feel? Chances are, even this brief exercise has shifted your mood, bringing a sense of warmth and contentment. This simple practice taps into one of the most powerful forces for personal transformation and happiness: gratitude. In 1 Thessalonians 5:18, we find this instruction: "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." At first glance, this might seem like an impossible standard. Give thanks in all circumstances, even in times of hardship, loss, or disappointment. But this teaching invites us to cultivate a radical attitude of gratitude that can revolutionize our approach to life. Gratitude isn't about denying the reality of difficult situations or plastering on a fake smile when we're hurting. Instead, it's about choosing to focus on the good that exists even in challenging times. It's about recognizing that every moment, every experience holds the potential for growth, learning, and grace. Think about a time when you faced a significant challenge. In hindsight, can you identify any positive outcomes or lessons learned from that experience? This is the kind of perspective that a practice of gratitude can help us develop. Research in positive psychology has shown that cultivating gratitude can have profound effects on our mental health, relationships, and overall well-being. It can reduce stress, increase resilience, improve sleep, and even boost our immune system. But how do we develop this attitude of gratitude in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Keep a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you're thankful for. They can be big or small. 2. Practice mindful appreciation. Throughout your day, pause to fully appreciate simple pleasures: the warmth of sunlight, the taste of your morning coffee, a kind word from a friend. 3. Express thanks to others. Make it a habit to verbally acknowledge the things you appreciate about the people in your life. 4. Reframe negative situations. When facing challenges, try to identify any potential positive aspects or opportunities for growth. 5. Use visual reminders. Place notes or objects around your home or workspace that prompt you to think gratefully. 6. Gratitude meditation. Spend a few minutes each day in quiet reflection, focusing on the things you're thankful for. Consider the story of Corrie ten Boom, who, along with her family, was imprisoned for helping Jews escape the Nazi Holocaust. Even in the midst of horrific circumstances in a concentration camp, she and her sister Betsy found things to be thankful for, including the fleas in their barracks, which they later realized kept the guards away, allowing them to hold secret Bible studies. Their story is a powerful example of finding gratitude in even the darkest circumstances. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, commit to a daily gratitude practice. Each morning when you wake up and each night before you go to sleep, list 3 things you're grateful for. They can be big or small, from a loving relationship to a delicious meal. At the end of the week, reflect on how this practice has affected your mood, your relationships, and your overall outlook on life. Remember, gratitude is like a muscle. The more we exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Over time, it can become a default way of seeing the world, transforming our experience of daily life. Imagine how your life might change if you approached each day with a heart full of thankfulness. How might it affect your relationships if you regularly expressed appreciation for others? How might it change your approach to challenges if you looked for the lessons and blessings in every situation? As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to cultivate hearts of gratitude. In a world that often focuses on what's wrong or what's lacking, choosing gratitude is a radical transformative act. It has the power to change not just our own lives, but to spread positivity and hope to those around us. You have the power to choose gratitude, to find blessings, even in difficult circumstances. You have the ability to transform your life and influence others through the simple act of giving thanks. How will you practice gratitude today? Imagine you're at a buffet filled with your favorite foods. Everything looks delicious, and you're hungry, but then you're told that for every plate of food you don't eat, a hungry child somewhere in the world will be fed. Suddenly, your choices take on a new significance. This scenario captures something of the essence of Jesus' teaching on self-denial. In Matthew 16:24, Jesus says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." This teaching challenges us to the core. In a world that often encourages self-indulgence and putting our own desires first, Jesus calls us to a radically different way of living. But what does it mean to deny ourselves? It's not about self-hatred or rejecting our inherent worth. Instead, it's about choosing to prioritize higher values and the needs of others over our own immediate wants or comfort. It's about recognizing that true fulfillment often comes not from serving ourselves, but from serving a purpose greater than ourselves. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are, many of them have demonstrated some form of self-denial, perhaps sacrificing personal comfort for a cause they believe in, or putting the needs of others before their own desires. This principle lies at the heart of many of humanity's noblest achievements and most inspiring stories. So how can we begin to practice self-denial in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Start small. Look for daily opportunities to put others' needs before your own. Perhaps letting someone else have the last slice of pizza or giving up your seat on a crowded bus. 2. Practice delayed gratification. When you want something, try waiting before indulging. Use that time to reflect on whether it's truly necessary or beneficial. 3. Volunteer regularly. Commit time to serving others without expectation of reward. 4. Fast from something. Periodically abstain from something you enjoy. Food, social media, shopping, and use that time or resources to benefit others. 5. Challenge your comfort zone. Regularly do things that push you out of your comfort zone for the sake of growth or serving others. 6. Examine your motivations. Before making decisions, ask yourself whether you're acting out of self-interest or for the greater good. Consider the story of Dr. Paul Farmer, who could have had a lucrative medical career in the United States, but chose instead to dedicate his life to providing healthcare to impoverished communities in Haiti and around the world. His life exemplifies how self-denial can lead to profound positive impact. Here's a challenge for you. This week, choose one area of your life where you can practice self-denial. It could be giving up a luxury and donating the money saved, or committing time you'd usually spend on entertainment to serving others. At the end of the week, reflect on how this practice affected you and those around you. Remember, self-denial isn't about punishing ourselves or earning moral points. It's about freeing ourselves from the tyranny of our own desires and opening ourselves to a more fulfilling way of living. It's about discovering that we often find our truest selves when we stop focusing on self. Imagine how our world might change if more people embraced this principle. How might it affect our approach to global issues like poverty or climate change? How might it transform our personal relationships and communities? As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another in the practice of self-denial. In a culture that often glorifies self-indulgence, choosing self-denial is a countercultural, transformative act. It has the power to reshape our lives, our communities, and our world. You have the power to choose a life that prioritizes higher values over personal comfort. You have the ability to make a difference through sacrificial living. How will you practice self-denial today? Picture a beautiful garden. Now imagine that instead of enjoying its beauty, the gardener hoarded all the flowers, never sharing them with anyone. The flowers would wither and die, their beauty and fragrance wasted. This image helps us understand the principle of generosity that Jesus taught. In Acts 20:35, we find these words attributed to Jesus. It is more blessed to give than to receive. This teaching challenges our natural inclination to accumulate and hold on to things for ourselves. It suggests that true joy and fulfillment come not from what we keep, but from what we give away. It's a paradoxical truth that runs counter to much of what our consumer-driven culture tells us. But this principle isn't just about money or material possessions. Generosity can extend to our time, our talents, our attention, and our compassion. It's about cultivating an open-handed approach to life, recognizing that everything we have is a gift to be shared. Think about a time when you gave something significant, perhaps a meaningful gift or your time to help someone in need. Remember the joy you felt in that moment of giving. That's the kind of joy Jesus is inviting us to experience more fully in our lives. So how can we cultivate a spirit of generosity in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Start with gratitude. Recognize all that you've been given. Gratitude naturally leads to generosity. 2. Give regularly. Make giving a habit, not just an occasional act. Set aside a portion of your income for charitable giving. 3. Look for everyday opportunities. Be alert to small ways you can be generous throughout your day. Paying for a stranger's coffee, offering a listening ear to a friend in need. 4. Share your skills. Volunteer your talents and expertise to help others or support causes you care about. 5. Practice presence. Give people your full attention. In our distracted world, this can be one of the most meaningful gifts. 6. Expand your circle of giving. Look for ways to be generous, not just to friends and family, but to strangers and even those you might consider enemies. Consider the story of Chuck Feeney, who made billions in duty-free shopping but gave away virtually all of his wealth to charitable causes during his lifetime, often anonymously. His story embodies the principle that the joy of giving far outweighs the pleasure of keeping for oneself. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, commit to one intentional act of generosity each day. It doesn't have to be grand or costly. It could be as simple as giving a genuine compliment, sharing a skill, or buying a meal for someone in need. At the end of each day, reflect on how these acts of generosity affected both you and the recipients. Remember, generosity isn't about the amount we give, but about the heart behind our giving. Jesus praised a poor widow who gave 2 small coins because she gave all she had, Mark 12:41-44. It's about cultivating a mindset that says, what I have is not just for me, but for the benefit of others. Imagine how our world might change if more people embraced this principle of generosity. How might it address issues of inequality? How might it transform our communities? How might it enrich our relationships and bring more joy into our daily lives? As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to live with open hands and open hearts. In a world often characterized by greed and self-interest, choosing generosity is a radical, transformative act. It has the power to not only change lives, but to change us in the process. You have the power to be a channel of blessing in this world. You have the ability to create ripples of kindness and generosity that extend far beyond what you can see. How will you choose to be generous today? Imagine a mighty oak tree. Its branches reach high into the sky, providing shelter and beauty. But what allows this tree to stand tall? It's the unseen root system, spreading deep and wide beneath the surface. This image captures the essence of humility, a quality that, though often unseen, provides the foundation for true greatness and lasting impact. In Matthew 5:3, Jesus begins the Beatitudes with these words, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This teaching invites us to embrace humility as a path to spiritual richness and fulfillment. But what does it mean to be poor in spirit? Being poor in spirit isn't about low self-esteem or false modesty. Instead, it's about recognizing our dependence on God and our interconnectedness with others. It's about approaching life with an attitude of openness, recognizing that we don't have all the answers and that we have much to learn from others and from our experiences. Think about the truly great leaders and influencers you know, whether in history or in your personal life. Chances are, many of them demonstrated genuine humility. They were secure enough in themselves to admit their mistakes, to listen to others, and to prioritize the greater good over their own ego. So how can we cultivate humility in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Practice self-awareness. Regularly reflect on your strengths and weaknesses. Acknowledge both without exaggeration or self-deprecation. 2. Embrace a learning mindset. Approach each day and each interaction as an opportunity to learn something new. 3. Celebrate others' successes. Genuinely rejoice when others do well, rather than feeling threatened or envious. 4. Admit mistakes. When you're wrong, acknowledge it quickly and sincerely. See it as an opportunity for growth rather than a failure. 5. Serve others. Look for opportunities to serve without recognition. Do small acts of kindness anonymously. 6. Listen more than you speak. Practice active listening, truly seeking to understand others' perspectives. Consider the story of Mother Teresa. Despite gaining worldwide recognition for her work among the poor in Calcutta, she consistently deflected praise, seeing herself as a humble instrument of God's love. Her humility allowed her to connect deeply with those she served and inspired millions around the world. Here's a challenge for you. For the next week, practice the 30-second rule. In your conversations, after someone speaks, wait 30 seconds before responding, using that time to truly consider what they've said. At the end of the week, reflect on how this practice affected your interactions and your own thought processes. Remember, humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less. It's about recognizing that our worth doesn't come from our achievements or status, but from our inherent value as human beings. Imagine how our world might change if more people embraced humility. How might it affect our political discourse, our approach to global challenges, our personal relationships? Humility has the power to open doors, build bridges, and create space for genuine understanding and collaboration. As we continue on this journey together, let's encourage one another to cultivate hearts of humility. In a world that often celebrates self-promotion and ego, choosing humility is a countercultural transformative act. It has the power to not only change how others perceive us, but to fundamentally shift how we see ourselves and the world around us. You have the power to choose humility, to approach life with an open heart and an open mind. You have the ability to create space for others to shine, to learn from every experience, and to grow in wisdom and understanding. How will you practice humility today? Imagine you're planning a trip. Would you pack differently for a weekend getaway compared to a year-long journey? Of course you would. The length and nature of the trip significantly influence your preparations. In a similar way, Jesus invites us to live with an awareness that our earthly life is just part of a much larger journey. In Matthew 6:19-20, Jesus teaches, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. This teaching encourages us to live with an eternal perspective, to make choices based not just on their immediate impact, but on their lasting significance. Living with an eternal perspective doesn't mean we ignore our present realities or responsibilities. Instead, it's about understanding that our actions in the here and now have implications that extend far beyond our immediate circumstances. It's about recognizing that true fulfillment comes not from accumulating temporary pleasures or possessions, but from aligning our lives with timeless values and purposes. Think about the most meaningful moments in your life. Chances are they're not centered around material possessions or fleeting achievements, but around relationships, acts of love and kindness, or experiences of growth and transformation. These are the kinds of treasures that have eternal value. So how can we cultivate this eternal perspective in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps. 1. Prioritize relationships. Invest time and energy in building deep, meaningful connections with others. 2. Practice generosity. Use your resources in ways that benefit others and contribute to lasting change. 3. Pursue personal growth. Continually seek to learn, grow, and become a better version of yourself. 4. Make ethical choices. Consider the long-term impact of your decisions, not just the immediate benefits. 5. Cultivate gratitude. Regularly express thanks for the blessings in your life, recognizing them as gifts. 6. Seek purpose beyond yourself. Engage in activities and causes that contribute to the greater good. Consider the story of Alfred Nobel. Upon reading his own obituary, published mistakenly when his brother died, Nobel was dismayed to see himself described as the merchant of death due to his invention of dynamite. This led him to re-evaluate his life's work and ultimately establish the Nobel Prizes, leaving a legacy that continues to benefit humanity long after his death. Here's a challenge for you. This week, take some time to write your own eulogy. What would you want to be remembered for? What kind of impact do you want to have made? Then identify one concrete step you can take this week to align your life more closely with those aspirations. Remember, living with an eternal perspective isn't about ignoring the present or constantly focusing on the afterlife. It's about recognizing that our choices and actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond what we can see. It's about living in a way that contributes to something greater than ourselves. Imagine how our world might change if more people approached life with this eternal perspective. How might it affect our approach to environmental issues, our treatment of others, our use of time and resources? Living with an eternal perspective has the power to radically reshape our priorities and the impact we have on the world around us. As we conclude this journey together, let's encourage one another to keep this eternal perspective in mind. In a world that often pushes us towards short-term thinking and immediate gratification, choosing to live with an eye on eternity is a radical, transformative act. It has the power to not only change the trajectory of our own lives, but to leave a lasting positive impact on the world around us. You have the power to make choices today that will echo into eternity. You have the ability to invest your life in things that truly matter, to leave a legacy that extends far beyond your own lifetime. How will you live with an eternal perspective today? Conclusion. Embracing the journey. As we come to the end of our exploration of Jesus' teachings, it's important to remember that this is not the end, but rather the beginning of a lifelong journey. The principles we've discussed, from loving our enemies to living with gratitude, from embracing humility to maintaining an eternal perspective, are not meant to be mere intellectual exercises. They are invitations to a transformed life, A life of purpose, joy, and lasting impact. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. We're all on a journey of growth and learning. There will be days when living out these teachings feels natural and rewarding, and other days when it feels impossibly challenging. That's okay. What matters is our commitment to keep moving forward, to keep aligning our lives with these timeless truths. As you go forward from here, I encourage you to 1. Reflect regularly on these teachings. Perhaps choose one principle each week to focus on and apply in your daily life. 2. Share what you're learning with others. As you discuss and live out these principles, you'll not only reinforce them in your own life, but also inspire those around you. 3. Be patient with yourself and others. Remember that transformation is a process, not an event. 4. Seek community. Surround yourself with people who encourage your growth and challenge you to live out these teachings. 5. Stay curious and open. Continue to explore, question, and deepen your understanding of these principles. Imagine for a moment the ripple effect if more people embrace these teachings. Picture a world where love trumps hate, where generosity overcomes greed, where humility replaces arrogance, and where an eternal perspective guides our choices. This is the world Jesus invites us to create, starting with our own lives and spreading outward to our families, communities, and beyond. You have the power to be a force for positive change in this world. You have the ability to embody these teachings and, in doing so, to inspire and influence others. Every small choice, every act of love, every moment of forgiveness or generosity contributes to this greater vision. As we part ways, I leave you with this question. How will you choose to live differently in light of what you've learned? What one step can you take today to more fully embody these teachings in your life? Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Your journey towards a life of deeper purpose, joy, and impact starts now. Take that first step, and then another and another. The path may not always be easy, but it promises to be profoundly rewarding. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Jesus' timeless teachings. May you go forward with courage, hope, and a renewed sense of purpose, ready to live out these truths and to be a light in the world around you.